As fans of horror movies will probably agree, we sift through a lot of garbage to find hidden gems, and sometimes we're left scratching our heads saying, what was that? In this video, I'm going to give you guys 7 hidden gem horror films you can stream for free on Tubi right now, and they're weird films. They're kind of out there, so if you like that type of film, this is the list for you. If this is the first time you've ever seen me, I make videos like this all the time. I give you horror movie recommendations, I do lists, I do rankings, new releases, so join the channel you like that type of content. And as I'm talking about these movies, whether you've heard of them before or you just have thoughts on anything I have to say, join me in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on any of it, or just some movies you think don't get the love they deserve, but they are definitely kind of out there. That being said, let's get weird. A director discovers a box of videotapes showing the creepy film project of 2 students that stars a horror legend. Butterfly Kisses is a found footage film. I actually reviewed this one recently if you want to check this out after, but I feel like not enough people know about this and I am not really a fan of found footage. In the movie, they are exploring the concept of Peeping Tom, this urban legend entity that once you see him, you can never unsee him. Very similar to It Follows. Whenever you blink, he moves incrementally closer to you in the background of your peripheral. You can never actually fully see him. And I think this is an effectively creepy found footage film. Again, I am not really into that subgenre hugely, but I do recommend this movie to a lot of people. The movie is told in the form of a mockumentary where you have somebody who discovers these tapes and he's trying to piece them together again and make a feature film out of the tapes. This movie makes the list because I think it's effectively weird, and I think the story of a director becoming so self-absorbed in his work he completely loses himself is a topic we have explored before, but I think this one in the form of this mockumentary found footage horror film is oddly unique and one of the better ones. So to be a little diverse, if you like found footage, this is probably the movie on the list for you if you've never heard of it. Check it out. A brash and arrogant podcaster gets more than he bargained for when he travels to Canada to interview a mysterious recluse who has a rather disturbing fondness for walruses. If you've seen the movie, you know from that description. The movie I'm talking about is Tusk. Justin Long, poor fella. Every horror movie this guy gets himself into, it feels like it gets a little bit worse. After Jeepers Creepers, and all downhill for the guy. No need to explain why this one's on the list. If you like body horror, this is the one for you. It's about a guy who, I don't even think it's a spoiler, he gets turned into a walrus. A new fear in life unlocked. I never thought I'd have to wake up and fear the day somebody could turn me into an animal, but this movie awakened things inside me I did not know existed. It's directed by Kevin Smith, the director of Clerks. It's oddly comedic at points, but at the same time, disturbing enough that I will never forget images from it. If you like very strange body horror films that are just so over the top weird they make you uncomfortable, this is by far the movie on this list I'm going to recommend. If you've seen it, you know it's something. The survival instincts of a road-tripping family are put to the test when they have no other choice than to stay the night at a remote homestead. Lowlifes. I have also reviewed this film on my channel. This was probably the biggest surprise of the entire year last year, being a Tubi exclusive. The movie starts off as one thing, completely 180s into something else in the second half, but it kind of plays out like a watered-down version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So this family is camping on the roadside in an RV when one day these 2 rednecks pull up to them and basically demand they give them a ride back home because their truck is not working. And what are you going to do? You're on the road and you just feel completely overwhelmed. It's a very scary, intense situation. They end up going back to this farmstead that these 2 live at, and from that point on, this movie just gets absolutely insane. If you're a fan of slashers like Texas Chainsaw, or movies that reinvent themselves numerous times throughout, every 20 or 30 minutes drastically changing, this is the movie I would recommend to you, because when I found this on Tubi, no expectations whatsoever, but after having seen it, definitely one of the best originals they've ever made, and I think it was amongst all of the best horror I saw last year. Gotta trust me on this one. Lowlifes. A normal Friday service at a fast food restaurant becomes interrupted by a police officer who claims an employee stole from a customer, but something more sinister is going on. This movie is called Compliance, and oddly enough, it's based on a true story. I wouldn't call this a full-fledged horror film, more of a psychological thriller, but because of the subject matter this movie discusses and where it ends up going, yeah, it's a horror film. You have this girl working at a fast food joint. She's working the cash register when one day her restaurant gets a call from a cop who accuses her of committing a very sinister crime. She swears she didn't do it, but the management at the restaurant is up in arms. They reprimand her and they are just like, we cannot believe you did this, because he's an authority figure. You have to believe him. The reason this movie is unsettling is because it's tackling the idea of authority, us being conditioned to believe authority and cops no matter what they tell us, which starts off believable enough, but eventually this movie spirals completely out of control to the point point, you will be yelling at your TV, why are you doing that? Again, based on a true story, which makes this movie incredibly effective to me, and a movie I have never forgotten since I saw it. I've only seen it once, but I will never forget it because it's a movie that you just leave going, what the? So if you're a fan of true stories that make you uncomfortable because they're almost impossible to believe, this is the movie I recommend for you, Compliance. A lone drifter suffering from partial memory loss accepts a job to look after a psychologically troubled woman in an abandoned house on an isolated island. This movie is called Caveat. I've also reviewed this one on the channel, and it's also by the director of Oddity, if you haven't gotten around to see that one. Fantastic haunted house film. In this one, you have a guy who is tasked with babysitting a friend's daughter on this isolated island. He cannot swim, so he's basically stuck secluded there for the weekend. The only caveat being, hence the name of this movie, he has to remain chained to the floor of the house wearing a sleepwalking vest. It restricts his movement to limited parts of the house. And what you end up getting is a very effective low-budget horror film. Again, I said in my review for this movie has 2 or 3 setups, like suspense-driven moments that just kind of sit there for you. Nightmare fuel, some of the most effective I've seen in a decade. So if you like haunted house, single location movies, this is easily the movie on this list I would recommend for you. Not going to give away a whole lot about where it goes, but it's just creepy, very atmospheric. You will probably know within the first 5-10 minutes if you turn on this movie whether or not you think it's going to be effective. And just a movie that feels unique because of the gimmick of him having to be chained up. Because he's restricted, he can only go to certain areas, and it makes the mystery of what's going on here almost like you're solving it with him and kind of a little bit more tense because he cannot escape. Again, the movie's called Caveat. Check it out if you've never heard of it. Just an unnerving film that actually made my hair stand up the first time I saw it. And we don't get a lot of like actually scary films anymore, so I like it. An exploration of one's relationship with food, sexuality, and revenge. It asks, how far would you go in the name of love? This movie is called Cannibal Mukbang, and if you don't know what that means, I actually didn't know what it meant going into the film. Apparently, there's this thing in Korea where people eat large portions of food on camera, and it's kind of sexualized. It's called mukbanging. And in this movie, you have this kind of dorky, down on his luck guy named Mark, who eventually stumbles into this very attractive and quirky girl named Ash. One night, they're at a convenience store, and upon leaving, she actually hits him with her car, and then she kind of nurses him back to health in her apartment. Another movie that's kind of horror adjacent, more so than being a scary film. This is kind of like a romantic, dark, coming of age or coming of rage tale, as they say. You have this very strange love story progression between Mark and Ash as the movie plays out, with their shared bonding over this hobby she has of mukbanging and eating people. One of those films where you have a very dynamic and aggressive female lead who's kind of controlling the tempo of the film. And this was a very weird watch. I thought the first act was very good. I thought the middle section, I was kind of like, what are we doing? And then by the third act, I thought it was kind of heartfelt and it really grew on me. And I thought it was actually really good. So if you're into a more quirky, weird, like coming of age love story horror film, check this one out, Cannibal Mukbang. Prior to the last couple of months, I had never heard of this movie, but I have a suspicion over the next couple of years, this movie's kind of going to garner as a cult classic because of the performance of the main female lead. April Consolo's her name. She's great in this. The only negative I kind of have about this is, aside from her, the acting in this movie is shoddy at best at points. The main character, Mark, is so dorky and nerdy. Even though he's sympathetic, you kind of want to flick him in the head and say, wake up, dude, what are you doing? But yeah, with this list being what it is, if you're looking for a movie that is so strange, it will definitely make you conflicted inside if you're enjoying what you're watching. A young writer gets a job assisting her favorite horror writer, but she finds herself participating in an out-of-control psychological experiment. The last movie we're going to talk about in this video is called True Fiction. I think this is a legitimately great horror film. Another movie I have never heard anybody else talk about. I don't know why. Maybe it's just unknown or something, thrown away on streaming. Only came out a couple of years ago, but what it's about, you have this down on her luck girl, once again named Avery, and she's trying to get this internship position where she's going to be the assistant of her favorite author named Caleb Conrad. She signs up for this experiment where she's going to live with him for a couple of months, and he's going to try to write a book called True Fiction based on all of her real life experiences while living with him. How this ends up playing out is a series of psychological tests that has her wondering, is this real? Is it not real? Is it all in her head? Is she being tested, or is this guy actually sinister? Movie that gets progressively better as it keeps going, more unpredictable as it keeps going, up to an absolutely wild finale, I think. basically was the bow on top of this movie and wrapped up perfectly for what they were trying to do. The movie takes place almost entirely in one location, and the performance of the two leads is great. Sarah Garcia is our main girl, and then John Cassini as this demented horror writer. Both of them very believable, and this is just a movie that gets smarter as it continues to go. There's twists and turns, it's unpredictable, it reinvents itself a couple of times. Every time you think the movie is getting a little bit staler, you get a major reveal. A movie that keeps you guessing, and I am a huge fan of an effective chamber piece where you stick two characters in one location and make me figure out what the hell is going on. So if you're into one location horror films where two characters are kind of going at it back and forth, seeing who can outwit each other, check out True Fiction. You will not be disappointed. There you have it, guys. That's a list of 7 weird, underrated gems you can find on Tubi streaming for free right now. Join me in the comments down below. Once again, join the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I will see you in the next video or review. Peace.